Okay, as promised, I'm going to make a video about how to make your own yeast for prepping purposes. Many people know this as the yeast that goes in breads, but I'm going to tell you, your finer bakeries, your French bread bakeries, the Italian bakeries do not use this. They use what they call a mother starter. They'll use this in bigger bulk though. They don't use this. They'll use a mother starter, which we're going to learn how to make today. This yeast is garbage pretty much, unless you want to make, some sandwich bread. That's pretty much all it's good for. When you use the mother starter, the texture of the bread comes out much better. From what I understand, this only has one strand of yeast in it. Both of these. We're going to get rid of this, put it to the side. This has literally, I can't speak, thousands of strands of yeast. Yeast floats around in the air, it's outside, it's everywhere. So we're going to actually create our own for bread baking, cake baking purposes. You can use it in sandwich bread, French bread, Italian bread, cinnamon rolls, you name it, you can use it. Alright, so some of the things we're going to need. Believe it or not, some blue tape. I'll show you why. I'm going to put everything aside that I introduced. Spoon. Large kitchen spoon. That's going to just grab, I use it. You use whatever you want. I use it to, because this bag is so big. Take a look how big the bag is. I use it to grab flour out and put it into the jar. So you're going to need a kitchen spoon. You might need a small micro spoon to dial in your weight. You're definitely going to need a rubber spatula. You're going to need a clean jar of some type. Oh, and by the way, with the clean jar, a lot of these jars come with gaskets. Take the gasket off. You do not use a gasket. The yeast needs to breathe. So we'll come back to this as well. For mixing purposes, I'm going to use this bucket right here. This is clean. Mix our flour and water in. Speaking of water, clean tap water will work. Room temperature, doesn't need to be heated up. Your scale, most important feature, it doesn't have to be a nice one like this one, but it must weigh in grams, okay? Make sure it can weigh in grams. Everything is grams. We are going to be making what they call a 100% hydration yeast. So what I'm going to do, let's see if I can angle this here so you can see. So I changed the angle so you can read. Change the angle of the camera, change the... Okay, so I turned the scale around so I changed the scale around so you can see the face. Make sure it's set to grams. I used to use a glass, you can use whatever you want. I like this frothing pitcher. I use it to make my espresso in the morning. I like it because of the spout. I can really dial in the weight of the water without going over. So, plastic, clean, on the scale, set to grams. Tear it out. That means zero it out. I've already done that. And what we're going to do is weigh out 100 of each. So we're going to weigh out 100 grams of flour. What you want in a flour is a high quality flour. King Arthur is the best flour you can buy in the stores, in my opinion. They sell it pretty much in every store, just a little more expensive than the others. It should be unbleached. It does not have to be organic, but it should be unbleached. And for those people who have asked me, yes, you can also use whole wheat. However, for your mother starter, I recommend... I normally make 100% white flour mother starter. However, you can put in 50-50. I recommend for those who really want whole wheat to put 80-20 of your whole wheat. So 80% this, 20% whole wheat if you're really fixed on it. So let's get 100 grams here. Spoon. All right. 90 grams. 105, I'm taking a little bit off. You got to really be precise. A little bit more off. Boom, 100. Done. Get this out of the way. 100 grams of water. You can just add it to 200 or you can tear it to 0 again. 100 grams. All right, we're good. 100. We're done with the scale for now. Get this out off to the side. And this is what we do. We mix it. It's 100% ratio water to flour. So it's 100. If anybody ever asks, what is your hydration? If you're trying to calculate recipes or you're trying to calculate, they call it bread math, baker's math, or whatever you want to call it. You know how many grams of water you have in it and how many grams of flour you have in it, just based on the fact that it's weighed out. So I can make 600 grams of this and know that I have 300 grams of water, 300 grams of flour to create 600 grams. But in this case, it's just 100 and 100. And all you do is stir it. Okay, you just stir it. And it's going to come out really thick. Just stir it good. I like the rubber spatula because I can get in, I can scrape the sides, almost clean the sides off. You see what I'm talking about? I can almost just clean those sides off. All right. It is clean. Sides are clean and everything is pretty much good to go. Now with this, as long as you wash your hands, it's okay to do this. Because I want to make sure the weight is appropriate. Boom. It's done. So what I do with this now, I just mark the edge of where the flour is. Trying to settle it real quick, and then I'll come over to the side and just the bottom edge of that flour, boom. So when it rises, I know exactly where it rose from. So when it goes up, I know exactly where it was. You can also use a rubber band. We're done with this. We are going to set it aside on the kitchen counter for 2 days. In 2 days, I am hoping to see bubbles on the top. See how thick that is? That's what I'm hoping to see, bubbles, in 2 days. At which time, and I'll go over this again, I am going to dump 100 grams away into the trash, leaving 100 grams left. We are going to repeat the same process with the remaining 100 grams of this left over. We're going to add another 100 grams of fresh flour and another 100 grams of room temperature water. Mix it up, let it sit for a day, and we'll come back and see if there's even more bubbles. If there's more bubbles, we're going to feed it every day until it starts to rise and fall. You're not going to see any rising and falling until the yeast starts to build up. So see you in a few days. We'll take a look at it. Oh, by the way, one more thing. I brought this out. After my yeast is mature enough, that means it has the ability to leaven bread, rise and fall. After it has that ability, I'll then transfer it to this clean, pretty container. But right now, it's just going to sit here. And one last thing before you leave. Don't have to be airtight. I normally put 3/4 down and leave a little crack up. Just like that. See you back in a couple of days. Okay, this is the next day. Has not been 2 days. It's only been 1 day, and as you can see, there's no change in the in how high this is. It's still at the level of the blue tape. Again, you can use a rubber band if you have it. As suspected, there are no bubbles yet. So we're going to wait again till tomorrow, which is the second day, and we'll come back to this. Again, leave it loose, or even just put a piece of saran wrap on top. And the saran wrap does not have to be tight. Hopefully your kitchen's warm, and just leave it on the kitchen counter. Okay, this is day 2. I just wanted to let you folks know I do keep this still in the house, even though I don't normally bake with this. When I do, I keep it in the house for emergencies. Hey, a backup, redundancy, you know the routine. Okay, so it's day 2, 2 days after I made the mother starter. I'm gonna pick up the camera, but first show you it. It has not rised. It's not going to rise and fall yet. And depending on your climate, the type of water, the type of flour, it might not rise and fall for 3, 4, possibly even 5 or 6 days. But when you see bubbles, that is a good sign. You're starting to see bubbles on top, okay? That's the yeast and all the bacteria, the good bacteria, starting to grow. The dough now, I keep calling it dough because that's really what it is. It's a mother starter, but now it's not as thick. It's almost like pancake batter. Okay, so we're going to do what they call a feeding now. Yeast gets hungry, and when it eats, when it's time, in that 3, 4, 5, or 6 days that I mentioned, after you feed it, within a few hours you'll see it rise, then it'll be falling. We're going to do its very first feeding. What I like to do, we know there's 200 grams in here. 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. So I'm just going to weigh off 100 grams. I'll mix it up again. 100 grams. Weigh it out. Just in case some water evaporated or something. And yes, I'm being very picky about the weight. All right. Get rid of 2 grams in there. 1 more back in. I'm getting it on my shirt. Boom. We're good. We're going to wash this down the drain or in your trash. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, all washed and clean. When you wash and clean this, don't use any dish soap or anything. Okay? That goes for when you start putting it in your pretty glass jar. Every now and then I'll take all the mother starter out and clean her up. It's just, I wash it with hot water and clean hands. So, we know that there's 100 grams in that. What we're going to do is just dump all of it into that container. I don't know why I get nervous doing these instructional videos, but hey, as long as I'm clear and explaining, I'm good. Get this to the side. And now what we're going to do, we're going to repeat and rinse from what we did the first day. And this is how you feed it forever and ever. I'm going to zero out the scale. And I'm going to put 100 grams of flour, just like the very first day. 100 grams of flour. There we go. And 100 grams of water. I'm just going to wait till it gets to 200. It's a good thing I went to government school, right? I can add 100 and 100. Thank God. Nowadays, who knows what they can add or can't add. Everywhere. All right, one more lousy gram. I'm there. Okay, put the scale away. So now we got 300 grams total, right? We do. The 100 gram of starter that we made on the first day. 100 grams of fresh flour and another 100 grams of water, room temperature water. I'm going to just do the same thing. And we are going to leave it again on the counter. Now I forgot to mention, Mother Starter loves growing, the beginning stages of creating it. Anywhere from like 75 degrees to like 89 in your house. So that's a pretty liberal range. But you'll notice the cooler it is on that range, the longer it's going to take for it to mature and grow and be ready to use. The Mother Starter really needs to do its first growth and about eight growths after that. That means 8 feedings after that. So when it rises for the first time, it won't be for another 7-8 days. I'm trying to clean the sides here. Until it's ready to be used in bread. Now what I like to do, because now we have more. We have a total of 300 grams in here. I'm going to remove my tape, and this is going to be the new line. And that's where it's going to always stay now, because no matter if this is, it's what, 2 days old right now, or 10 years, you're always going to just keep about 300 grams in this container. A lot of people have their Mother Starters, I kid you not. They've been in the family for 20, 30, 40 years. Those are some serious bakers. The good thing about it is after it matures, you can pretty much freeze it. You can put it in the fridge. You can pretty much abuse it, and it'll live. It's only while we're making it, we have to feed it pretty much every day for about 8 or 9, 10 days, whatever it takes for it to grow. Once it's in the fridge, if you bake once a week, you only need to feed it once a week. So I'll see you tomorrow, because now we feed it every day until it starts to grow. We've already seen bubbles. Now we need it to start to rise and fall. And I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, one thing I wanted to give you I want to give a tip out. I don't normally like to do this, but if you're having a hard time, and I please encourage you to wait the full 8 to 10 days before trying this hack, because it is a hack. Try it without the pineapple juice. I am going to make a hack. Instead of 100 grams of water, one time and one time only, in the very beginning. You can replace, what is a tablespoon? 1 tablespoon, I think it's, what, 5 grams? You can weigh it out. You can replace we'll just say 5 grams, whatever a tablespoon is, with 5 grams of water. That means the hydration rate still needs to be 100 grams. So just subtract 5 grams from your 100 grams of water, replace it with pineapple juice. One time only. The acid in the pineapple juice will really boost the speed of how fast your mother starter grows. You can only do it one time, and that is during the very beginning. And every time after you feed it, it's only flour and water for the rest of its life. And I guarantee you, by the time the 8th day comes, you will not be able to detect pineapple juice in there because you've diluted it 8 times with fresh flour and fresh full 100 grams of water. So if you're having problems again with it rising and falling after day 8 or 9, you can restart the entire process again, but with a little pineapple juice. That's Dole pineapple juice. And but anyway, we're not going to use pineapple juice right now. We're going to use it the plain old-fashioned way. Now we feed it every day for 8 days. Take care. Okay, so while we're making this mother starter, this natural yeast, I also have to maintain my own yeast. And I just dumped out 2/3 of this into this bowl for discard and fed it the additional 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. That's done. I can discard this. However, I got a little healthy, tasty hack I like to show you. I love good pancakes. These are good. What I'll normally do, this recipe calls for batter mix and water. Dump a little of this in there. I do this so much I don't even need to measure it. I could just go by consistency of the batter. Little water. Little mixing. And a little of this mother starter. I normally put about two full healthy tablespoons. Shut up! This is actually healthy to eat. Mature mother starter. A lot of yeast, a lot of probiotics in there. I'll sometimes take a tablespoon of this. It tastes like wine. It's basically fermented hooch. And stir it up and take a good tablespoon of it every morning. Not every morning, but when I feel like it. Stir that up into that. Now I got fortified pancake batter. It's going to create some thick pancakes because this is actually a leavening agent. That's a leavening agent, the mother starter, what we're using, natural yeast. That's my dog barking. Give him a ride in the microwave if he doesn't behave himself. Okay, hold on just a second. We're not done. Little grass-fed butter and real maple syrup. I like to pamper myself on the weekends. Notice that my batter now is starting to bubble. Get this a little closer, tilt this down. I love cooking in black iron skillets. Know what the trick is? Seasoning it and never really washing it. Don't get me wrong, I wipe it down. Nothing saucy goes in here. Anything that has a watery consistency will mess up your seasoning. I cook eggs in this. Is primarily a fryer right here. And what I'll do is after this is out, I'll grease it down, wipe it down, and it'll just sit right up there. Next morning I use it, goes back up there after I wipe it down and re-oil it. Boom, 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 boom. That's where it stays. I can't wait. Okay, I'm not going to bore you. I'll come back in a minute after this is cooked, but I can already see it starting to rise. All right, time to flip. Getting ready to plate up. I'm going to turn this around here so you could see how this pancake is rising. That is amazing. You can do this with any pancake batter, by the way. You know, with the yeast. And Jemima, whatever your taste is. I normally go just by the resistance, see if it's ready. Be right back. I need practice making these cooking videos, don't I? I love lots of butter. Butter and maple syrup. That's how it's done. Okay, this is day 3. Talking a little quiet so I don't wake everybody up. Just want to show you what I got here. Picking up the camera handheld. Be doing a little pizza tonight. So this is 2 pizza doughs, 2 pizza balls for 2 pizzas. So we have some changes here in the mother starter. I'm going to pick up the camera again and I'm going to show you what we got cooking. I don't know if you can see that. Got a lot of bubbles now. Not only do we have a lot of bubbles, but if you take a look, you can almost see bumps. The smell right now smells like watered down wine. Smells very good. The gluten is built up and the proteins are built up. Now the consistency has changed to almost like a soft butter. Whereas before, if you recall, take a look at the first video, it's much thicker. Okay, so we're gonna get back to feeding it. This is where we're going to start to see the rising and the falling of this. Same process. We know there's 300 grams in there. 100 grams of mother starter, 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. dump it all out. Oops. I don't even need the scale for right now. I'm just dumping it out. Okay. Turn on the scale. It's going to zero out. And pour 100 grams of this back in. And we're good. You can discard the remaining 100 grams of water. Oh, a little too much, but that's okay. I'll take a little out. Grams of flour. Break up all the dry pieces. Clean up the sides. See how thick that is now? Scrape off the spatula. Okay, day 5 has passed. I just did another feeding. That means I dumped everything out. I put 100 grams of the starter back in, 100 grams of flour, and 100 grams of water, and we're back down to this paste. I think it's mature enough to put into a nice jar. So let's just get this done. So again, total of 300 grams. Okay, this is the end of day 4. And if you take a look, you can see how frothy the top is.